Welcome everyone to the first installment of My Path in Payments Live. My name is James Hayward and I lead the global content team here at checkout.com. And I'm privileged to be joined by Brigette Korney, Senior Director, Payments and Fraud at Groupon, and Mary Chen, Senior Manager, Payment Strategy at Walmart Marketplace. A very warm welcome to you both.
Thank you.
So we have just under half an hour here, and I have plenty that I want to ask Brigette and Mary about their careers, the trends they're tracking, and the future of the profession. But they're also here to answer your questions, and we encourage you to drop those into the chat. Just as a note, please recognize that neither Brigette nor Mary will speak about anything specific to their company. Still, they're very happy to talk about their careers, provide advice, and share their views on anything payments related. So before starting the discussion, I want to provide some background on My Path in Payments and why we're here today. So we launched this series 2 years ago with a pretty simple goal, which was to showcase the incredible careers of trailblazers in the industry. And since launching the series, we've been incredibly lucky to speak with 12 payment professionals and share their stories with thousands of people worldwide. You can read these stories in our season 2 ebook, and I'd also encourage you to subscribe to our newsletter to get the latest interviews delivered straight into your inbox. We'll post the links for both of those in the chat. But without any further delay, let's begin the conversation. Brigette, please can you provide a quick introduction and tell us one interesting fact about yourself?
Yes, I worked very hard on trying to figure out what my interesting fact is, and now I think I might be building it up too much, but I'll start with a little bit of background on my career so far. First of all, thank you, James, and thank you, Mary. I'm so excited to be here with you both. I'm really honored to be included on this webinar. As James mentioned, my name is Brigette Korney. I lead payments and fraud operations at Groupon. I've been at Groupon for over 12 years now. I like to say I'm a piece of furniture. I'm a dinosaur around there. But we really think of payments and fraud as a key part of like the seamless customer experience that Groupon tries to offer to all of our customers. And part of that includes partnering cross-functionally internally with a bunch of different teams, customer service, product engineering, finance, etc. But also it includes externally partnering with all of our different relationships. So with our acquirers, with our solution providers, etc. So my team really focuses on all aspects of the internal and external collaboration, and then putting a strong focus on using data and analytics to drive our roadmap and prioritize new initiatives. My interesting fact, so my husband and I both have a lot of close family that live in the area. So during the pandemic, I started hosting a Sunday dinner where I could cook a big meal for whoever could make it. So I set a formal dining table every Sunday and practice different recipes, different wines, of course. And so sometimes we set the table for 4, sometimes for 20, depending on who can make it. And it's been a really great opportunity to just focus, start the week off right. And I hope to continue that for years to come.
There's a lot of interesting facts. Thank you, Brigette. And Mary, over to you.
Yeah, that's nice. Thanks, James and Brigette. Of course, always love being in the talk with Brigette as well. It's always like a great opportunity. Excited to be here. Like James introduced myself, I'm Mary. I'm currently the senior manager at Walmart Marketplace, focusing on payment strategies for the e-commerce marketplace platform, focusing a lot on like international expansion from a brick and mortar now to more of an e-commerce online platform. So very excited to be part of that opportunity recently. And I have over, 7+ years of experience in payment and fraud and many years of experience in finance and operations strategies. But I have been in different startup and corporate companies like HBO Max, HelloFresh, and Spotify and Bloomberg. So I would just say in a nutshell that I love building things from scratch in a startup and a corporate company. And having payments is like an ever-changing landscape. And you could always, any company or any business model you join, you're just coming in and rolling up your sleeve and build something. And that's something I'm super excited about all the time. And of course, I also have a data analytic background. So if I'm doing a lot of payment nerd and data talking, then that just kind of says a lot about me to a lot of my friends. Luckily, I have a lot of close friends like Brigette and other payment folks that get what I'm talking about. So very excited to be part of here. An interesting fact. Wow. I love going hiking with my corgi Obi. He's my wingman. So our favorite spot is going hiking and go to like dog-friendly breweries, and he gets plenty of treat, and I get to enjoy a nice beer and enjoying the fall foliage in New York City. So that's something we've been enjoying the past 2 months. So looking forward to that.
I love it, Mary. A dog-friendly brewery sounds like the perfect place in the world, if you ask me. So let's start talking about your respective careers. So big question, sort of, if you can recap sort of what first led you to work in payments, and also if you can recount back to those days, the first impressions of the space. And Brigette, we'll start with you.
Sure. So I kind of already talked a little bit about my tenure at Groupon, and that, I haven't really moved around a lot, but I have moved around a lot internally inside of the company. And I certainly didn't anticipate ending up in payments and fraud, let alone a technology focused role. When I started at Groupon, I started in our sales department, working to onboard all of the small businesses in different markets to the Groupon platform. And this really allowed me to understand the needs of our partners, but also I got to see what types of deals performed well and understand what our customers really wanted to buy. I stayed in that role for a little bit. I was honestly very terrible at sales, so they probably wanted me to move on out of that. And I moved in over the next couple of years into a variety of different teams. I focused on merchant strategy, risk management, and then a couple of finance functions. But it was really there where I got the bug to operate and execute. And like Mary said, like roll up my sleeves and build something. And I finally found a home within the fraud and payment space in 2015. And since then, I've been just a part of a really tremendous team and built out a global platform and a large organization across the world, and something I'm really proud of.
Brilliant. And Mary, your career has been slightly different in the path that you've taken. So can you walk us through that and explain sort of why you've made the moves that you have?
Yeah, sure. So I started out in Bloomberg. I was there for 6+ years. Got my master in data analytics. I have a strong interest in finance and data analytics, but finance is such a broad area. It's like you could do so much. And somehow I at that time, I just want to go to more startup company, and Spotify at that time was pre-IPO, and it was a great opportunity to jump in to learn startup opportunity in a finance revenue side. And then eventually I was offered opportunity in HelloFresh doing payment, and my impression of payment was it's a finance job, right? That's what a lot of people get, like, is payment under finance, product, engineering? So at that time, I actually thought being a payment manager at HelloFresh was just being a finance manager, which kind of where I was also wanting to grow the team and build a product from scratch in the US at that time. And it was exciting, but definitely payments is not finance. There's a component of it, but it's definitely very different. At HelloFresh, I was managing a lot of vendor relationship, understanding like interchange costs, processing costs. It's a whole payment ecosystem, and I completely was trying to search for where is the class or the books that I could go to, because I'm a payment nerd. I refer to some kind of books to refer to. And at that time, I think it was 2018, there was no such thing, at least not that I was aware of. So I created my own Mary's guidebook, a good guidebook. So it just was just like start documenting things to help myself, understanding the ecosystem, creating a flow chart. It was so exciting, and it's just like creating something out of nothing. And here and there, whenever I interview someone as a payment analyst or entry to payment, I would, just kind of guide them, share my notes a little bit. And that was kind of where I find it super exciting. It's like building something that wasn't exactly available in a college or even anywhere that having that resource. And it's a completely brand new industry at that time, at least in my eyes. And I love this so much because there's so many components from being analytical, problem solving. There is a lot of ambiguity, and that's something I love a lot. And being able to be part of that was amazing. And at that time, I actually thought, is payments accounts payable? Like, what is the difference? So over time, I finally know how to describe payment to people like friends, family, and people I kind of know. Now it's just like, now what do we know what's digital? I call myself a digital payment person. So at least it's easier. I help people shop online. You should appreciate that.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
I help people shop online.
I put it in very simple terms.
Yeah. I think we all need a copy of your guidebook.
That's exactly what I was thinking. We should get it to a #1 bestseller on Amazon.
Yes.
Happy to share it one day once it's like a little bit more shaped up. But yes,
published. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of where my experience started, and my motto is more like, every time I want to learn something and do something, it has to be something I love. So all the companies I have worked for, it's always food related, music related, content related, or shopping related. I think I kind of emphasize I like shopping a lot, so that's why where I am right now at Walmart, helping people finding affordable things to buy, and that's something I'm very passionate about. And yeah, so it's kind of like Brigette said, I found a home in my experience, and I'm enjoying it so much right now.
Yeah, it's lovely to hear. And, with every conversation we've had there, that's really resonated through, that people find themselves working in payments through some strange direction. And then once they're in, they love it and they stay there. So I guess one of the questions I want to ask, given your different experiences, you both come at payments from slightly different angles. Sort of, how do you think those lessons and those previous experiences has helped shape your career and your approach to your roles? And Mary, we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. I definitely think like every company from a different payment perspective comes in different angle, especially like a lot of startup company need to prioritize resources, and engineering effort is always going to be limited. So from payment perspective, what is we need to prioritize to finding the right provider and relationship and limited resources. So that's something I learned when I was in a lot of startup company focusing on payment. But when I'm in more corporate companies focusing on payment, there are resources. Of course, engineering is always limited, regardless where you go. But you have to prioritize what are the top priorities that really bring in that revenue or optimize or bring in like impact the whole kind of a vertical. And there's a lot more factor to consider. And I think it's just quite interesting. Like every company, every business model, tangible product or not, there's always so many, there's no one model for any company is what I learned. Payment and fraud, you cannot pick the same provider for the corporate company versus a startup company. And even if you do, you have to find a way to mixing around. Do you use the same credit card method? Or is it ACH? And what's the best delivery process? There is so much learning, and data is king is kind of where I see it. I need data to support my learning in payment and fraud. And that's kind of what I noticed in my payment career as well. Those are factors that are super important in the payment area. Using all the resources and trial and error testing is super important. And I do a lot of that on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I think, as you said as well, that commercial aspect and sort of payments touches every single part of the business, right? And has that real impact across the board. So Brigette, over to you. Is there anything that sort of, has helped shape your philosophy to payments?
I think that the part you just hit on was really where my mind immediately goes. Internally at a merchant, payments, if you let it and you seek it out, you can let your group touch every other part of the business, and you can be a partner to customer service, to the security team, to the engineering, to product, to like whatever the group. There's something that you have to offer, and I think that's super important because it can also help improve your overall team strategy with diverse opinions that you, and those connections being so diverse, they help you make better decisions and develop your team, give your team different opportunities and challenges. And honestly, having like all those different partners makes your day a little bit different every day, right? It's not, easily you could be siloed into your own little group, but I think that really limits like the growth of your team, the growth of your roadmap, how you're thinking outside the box. Because making the decision to do one initiative over another is largely dependent on the strategy of your overall company. I look at what we set out as our number one KPI, or what's driving our overall company growth and company strategy, and taking that and pushing that down onto my team and seeing what payment initiatives can kind of fit in to that. And that might be different at Groupon than it is for Mary at Walmart. So I think, of course, like being educated and knowing what's out there for a large variety of different things that you can do. It's just understanding what fits best in your business. And then the only other thing I'll say is I think about relationships externally also a lot in terms of how it shaped my strategy towards payments, that this is a very small world. And we kind of talked about this before we went live, but some people that you're talking to at one solution provider today, they might not be at that solution provider next week. They might be at a merchant that you're really interested in getting to know more. And so really building out relationships, not just for maybe a short-term focus, but like a longer term actual growth, for beneficial growth for both of you, I think is really like important to think about when you're making decisions about who you're talking to and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. It's very interesting, both in that external relationships and of course the internal that we spoke about as well. Lots to consider there. So we're just going to take a slight change here in terms of what we're talking about, because we'll get back on sort of team building and growing the profession shortly. But I'd be remiss having you both on the call if I didn't ask this question about the major payment trends and developments that you're both currently tracking at the moment. So Brigette, anything that you want to highlight there?
The number one thing that comes to mind is collaboration. I think we're in an unprecedented time for merchants being willing to share data, opinions. If we can get the framework right, I think people are more than willing. We are at an understanding that there is pros and cons, of course, but a lot more pros of being more collaborative with either other merchants or with solution providers. I think it's something that I have seen over the past 2 years become even more and more top of mind, even out to maybe the networks, like getting data out there that merchants are seeing in order to approve like more transactions, that type of thing. I just feel like it's fine. We're finally able to influence change at all levels, with hope that all of our mutual customer is going to benefit our ultimately at the end.
And Mary, anything you'd like to add there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, from a payment trend perspective, at least in my world, I'm just kind of like trying to be more innovative in payment wise, because a lot of e-commerce platform now are in the past, it's like, how could we deliver things within a day or two? But right now, everything needs to be delivered in an hour or two. And that has been such a really crazy time change for me. And I am also someone who love using all these different delivery platform to do all those fulfillment as well. But being creative in payment to handle all that payment from beginning to end and making the seller and customer happy within a even shorter time period is super hard now. And working with different provider and even learning different best practice and business model from other collaboration with other merchant is the only way to fulfill more quicker delivery. And I can't imagine what would happen if Groupon and Walmart collaborate together and do delivery, because everything is so instant now that just like if I want a breakfast, I want it right now. I don't want it one day later or pre-order. And that's what consumer want nowadays. And how could we deliver that with that technology? And payment is such a crucial foundation to make that happen. And I don't know the answer to that, and I'm looking for that answer. If someone knows, please share, and happy to kind of learn from them. But that's what I noticed these days. Like, things are just getting quicker, and how could we build a platform, a marketplace, or a space where things are just very easy for consumer to purchase, to be happy with their service. Just like all these are all the core, like to pay, it all impact payment. you have to make sure the payment go through and there's no fraud related or chargeback. I think this is going to be super interesting in the future. And how could we add social influence e-commerce as another potential? Could we use could we target people with data? And then if you're on Instagram, I'm a major target by probably for pet food at this point, because all the pet shops probably reaching out to me is like, I know you have a corgi. We're definitely targeting you for all those food related items or any Halloween costume for your dog. So these data and all these are just going to be an impact in the future. And I'm just looking forward to all these exciting new payment innovation. And we'll see how things goes, because I could just envision a lot of collaboration in the future, all different merchants and provider together and making it one major platform for everyone to be part of.
That's an interesting vision for sure. And like I and I agree. It's like the speed that you mentioned, and it does feel like we're on a bit of a sort of, that a lot's changed in a very short amount of time, and lots of innovation happened. But you look ahead, and there's just so much more that can come. And Brigette, as you mentioned, sort of the industry coming together, working together. Payments, as someone described to me in one of the other interviews I did for my part in payments, as being a fairly non-competitive space. Like the people who are working in payments come together, they share ideas. There's lots of forums, and particularly on the risk side, the fraud side that you also look after. There's lots of benefits there, isn't there, in terms of sharing the latest trends that are happening in that space. So super interesting to see where it goes, and I wonder if we'll have this one master big network at the end of the day. We'll see about that. So as we just sort of change gears a little bit again, I want to talk about sort of the team building side of things and growing the profession, because Mary, as you pointed out, right, payments is new. There are some people who've worked in payments for a fairly long time, but across the board, I would say that most companies are sort of building their first function, or have only recently built their first payments function, if one exists at all. Brigette, you're one of those people that have built teams, and you've built teams around the world. So tell us about that, and particularly, how do you go about finding the talent that you need in a profession that isn't as well defined as many others that exist presently?
So, well, first and foremost, I think I'd be lying if it was all me. And so I think that's kind of the first lesson, is look around you, who is already there and what strengths do they have, and understanding what holes you're actually trying to fill within your team. That, it was paramount to really identifying, like, on my leadership group, what do we really need to complement each other. But I truly believe that building a team just takes more than one leader or one recruiter, or it's everybody working together. And I know that sounds kind of corny, but it's the truth. So a combination of that trust, having vision from good leadership, but also having accountability at a leadership level is really important. And that had to start with me. So in order to attract talent, I tried to focus on building something that inspired people or gave people something challenging to work on. That's easier said than done, but it was really dependent on what our platform looked like at the time. Where did we need to grow, and how could we help benefit the business? How I think about retaining talent, I really think your team needs to believe in what the decisions that you're making as a leader. Like, they need to believe in you, and that you're being transparent. If something changes, why is it changing, etc. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, the people that are continuing to build out the team are the ones that you're hiring on. And so all of that has to kind of be, has to have synergy that's going on constantly. When I was looking for talent, though, I kind of mentioned, I really had to figure out what type of role I was trying to fill. So if it was issues with our technology and we really needed someone to guide the engineering teams on our roadmap initiatives, push for things that were helpful for us, we hired a product manager, and he did an awesome job doing that. Our relationships needed nurturing. You got to hire somebody with a background and a drive to really focus on working on those things. And I think sometimes you need a well-rounded person that can do kind of all those things. And that's the hardest situation, because ultimately I think like when you're looking for a candidate, you don't necessarily need payments and fraud background, in my opinion. It's helpful, but I think a lot of that can be taught. And if you focus on the strengths of the person in other ways and filling out the gaps in your team. But I think that kind of goes for most industries. I think we've changed as a workforce. We've kind of gotten away from you need to go to school for fraud prevention. Like that never existed, right? And so we've kind of gotten away from that when we start to look for talent. I don't narrow the scope in that and looking just for those things. It's obviously helpful, but like the other things that people are working on are really more so what I'm thinking of, because I feel like we could teach them payments and fraud. So
Yeah, and obviously we'll have Mary's guidebook as well at some point.
Yes.
It will be the go-to.
A lot easier.
Exactly. We're getting very close to time, so unfortunately we're going to have to wrap up. But I do just want to ask one final question to you both, and we'll try and tackle this in quick fire form. Anyone that's sort of starting their career and looking to work in payments, or even someone who's a seasoned professional looking to move into payments, what's the one word of advice that you'd give them? And Mary, we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. Actually, this is an interesting conversation. Someone recently reached out to me asking the same advice as well. And I just told them to go on LinkedIn and type in payment professional and reach out to them and see if they have like maybe 15, 20 minutes to have a quick conversation. It's like basically cold calling to ask for a mentor, but in the same time, I did that and it was great opportunity. There are great people out there in the payment profession that are super helpful, and I have done that. Someone have reached out to me and asked for a little bit guidance and what exactly payment does. And I'm also the type that I'm willing to help as long as they're interested. I think it just don't be afraid to ask for help. And even if you don't know that connection, it's okay to reach out on LinkedIn, which is why the LinkedIn platform is built. And if you have a connection, feel free to reach out. And the worst is someone's going to say no, but don't be afraid to accept a no answer or rejection. It's always there's always someone nice out there could answer your question. And that's kind of my advice to any newcomers nowadays. Don't be afraid, just reach out and see where things goes. And if you have any question, be prepared for it. And don't wait for someone to spoon feed you with don't just ask very generic question. Come in prepared, why you're here, what you want to know, and just learn. And I think that's the mentality to have. And I think that's super important to have that mentality right now.
Yeah, definitely. That's brilliant advice. And Brigette, over to you.
So I think that one way that I have actually found a lot of reward in my career is finding a way to give back, whether that be through mentoring or through joining different committees. And there's a lot of really wonderful trade organizations within fraud and payments that I think do a really great job of giving those opportunities to join in and really, like I said, give back. That's how Mary and I met, was through, our board participation with the MRC. And, we might be biased, but it's really been being present and participating in different organizations like that, giving back to other individuals, make this challenging space extremely rewarding, and keep your teams engaged, keep others engaged, and within this industry as we continue to build out payments and fraud professionals. I think having a voice within that has been really beneficial to me in my career, for sure.
Yeah, and I know that other people that we've interviewed in the series have said the same. Many have been on some of those boards. You all know each other. So yeah, it's a really fun. It seems like a very fun industry to be part of and to be working in, and lots of room there for growth for anyone that is thinking about moving in and becoming a payments professional. So unfortunately, we're going to have to close things off there. All that leaves me to say is a huge thank you to Brigette and Mary for joining me today. It's been a wonderful conversation, and I hope everyone who's been tuning in has enjoyed it as well. I'm excited to announce that season 3 of My Path in Payments will land next month with another stellar cast. So be sure to subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss out on the first one of those. We will post a link in the chat again for that. But Brigette, Mary, thank you again so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.